The Ratchet slash Ironhide Siege mode has a lot of retools. That's why he has so many 3D prints out there. For this guy, I printed the front piece for a more animated look. I also printed this little pistol to keep the spare head, so I don't lose this little piece. And a whole bunch of gap fillers from different sources, all of them linked below. As you guys can see, the only downside from the animated modification is that it doesn't sit as flush as the original toy. I think it would be possible to modify this front black piece so it can sit flusher, but I didn't do that, and I don't want to reprint and repaint the headlights here. The transformation is not affected at all, and let me transform this guy to show you I think I can show you all the gap fillers. Small detour here, I forgot to talk about this little computer piece, which I also printed for him, that goes here on his arm. I painted the screen because it was printed in white. As you guys can see, he looks very fun with the new chest, very much close to the animated version. This print, the guy that modeled it says to cut the spin off. I decided to drill into the print itself, and I decided to glue it with some double-sided sticky tape. I don't know if you can see it back here. It is that thick, very goopy type of sticky tape, sometimes used to attach, what's the name of that thing? Paintings to the wall. Let's talk about gap fillers, bottom to top. I don't have anything on the feet because I only found paid prints for the feet. Here inside the legs there are these two fillers. On the back, let me turn him around, I think it's better. I have these two on the thighs. The back also has this black piece covering a hole that was right there. The arms on the back has prints as well. Inside the biceps also prints. Oh, and I forgot, on the hands back here there are two small fillers as well. The pistol here, it is to hold the extra face, and it can still be changed, of course. It's just sometimes a little harder to pull the face off the head, and it is interchangeable still, of course, making this a much more fun figure, and I like it much more now because I am an animated fan. The original animated Ratchet toy is pretty fun and pretty accurate, and it includes 4 tool pieces, which is actually pretty nice and a good addition to the toy. But his magnets are missing. For as great as this toy is, his biggest flaw is the original Ratchet weapons from the animated version, which are represented by this sorry excuse again. So that's why I have these two little prints, printed in white, painted with red. Almost dropped him, and they go in the hands, plugging into the spring piece there, just like this, and close the hand on top so it's held in place. You do the same thing on the other side. There we go. I am also very excited for the Age of the Primes version of this guy that is coming out. And stay tuned because I'm definitely reviewing him, considering I have the other 4 main animated cast members. And there you go. There is how he looks with his magnets. They do sit in the middle of the forearm. Oh my god, this guy has such poor balancing. They do sit in the middle of this forearm like in the cartoon, and it does hold in the original magnet piece back there, so even if you turn the arm, it won't jump forward like it should. This Age of the Primes Junkion wreak-gar is definitely the laziest retool I own, but as you can see, it can be made to look a little bit more like the original animated version of the character. The only downside is that now it is a parts former with this back piece. There are many different versions of 3D prints to make him look more like a real animated wreak-gar, but this is the model I preferred to buy because it still transforms fine, and not everything is parts forming. I saw versions that just had like a cover over all this back part, and then you remove it and that becomes a shield, for example, but I think that's not fun as a modification and as a Transformers toy. There's also a version that adds only the spades here, the forks, and that version is free, also linked in the description with the kit that I bought and printed. There we go. But these side pieces are in too tight, so I can't demodify him without breaking the side pieces, which is something that I don't want to reprint. Him being in a parts former isn't really a problem for me, because this garbage was already a pretty sorry excuse for parts forming and covering up the fists. I printed everything in white and then painted it. I'm very happy in how it came out. Here on the inside, as you can see, it was printed in white. I did a little bit of black here just to hide it better when connected here. The only really big difference in the transformation is removing this, and there's a step with the front we need to do. Let me transform him really quick. Alright, when we get to this point, I like to kind of turn the arms in so they don't look this outwards. Because of the new pieces, they kind of go too much outside, and when turning them in a little bit, it looks better and not as weird. In the back here is where the transformation changes the most, I think. We need to take out the front part of the truck so it can plug here on the top, and then this garbage truck piece plugs in here, making a more cohesive backpack. This hinge plate just gets lodged here under the grill of the truck, so it sits there, and there he is transformed. I chose this kit because, as I said, it adds to the transformation. It isn't just like a cover, like full-on parts forming. There are these modification pieces, and the forks can be folded in, so it's still a cohesive toy. And the model also includes this brace piece, so the mouth of this sorry excuse for a weapon doesn't fall out as easily. I don't really use this no more because it doesn't have a place to fit on the toy, but of course it can still plug in the hands. You just lose the weapon storage because the weapon storage was kind of parts forming already. Why isn't it plugging in? Sometimes when posing him, when moving him around, the back part does fall out. That can be also kind of annoying. But I'm not really playing with the toy. I'm kind of okay with that because it fixes the animated wreck-gar. For the last 3D printed piece, I have this sword for Hearts of Steel Megatron. The biggest downside of this sword is that it has nowhere to plug in vehicle mode, and there's no weapon storage in robot mode as well. In bot mode, the sword plugs into his hand as usual, and this sword was printed in black filament, and I painted it with like a silver Sharpie and rubbed my finger so the paint would come out, and it gave it this like almost weathered look, this metal look to the sword that I think is pretty cool and does match the original toy. It's a bit too dirty per se, considering the toy is like pretty well painted and clean, but I do think it matches the aesthetic pretty well. And this is probably the last print of the video because it was already pretty hard to find something else to add to my prints, because my collection is not that big with the Transformers toys, and a lot of the times models are paid and I'm not really in the position to be buying 3D printed models for toys that are already pretty expensive. That's why all of the prints, no, not all. The wreck-gar print is paid, but the other ones are free. All of them are definitely free.